Thank you, everybody, for joining this beautiful State of the Thunder. The name is still up for discussion because some people hate it, some people love it. But you can give your suggestions, absolutely fine. This is, as usual, it's a bi-weekly open session, open to everyone inside Thunderbird for the council, also Mozilla. I share this in a couple of chats in the Slack. So if any people from the wider Mofo population are joining, they're more than welcome. And you're more than welcome to ask all the questions that you want. As well, I shared this on TB planning. I don't know if any community members will join. Probably we're going to have a higher attendance in a couple of weeks when we do that in like early morning because more European folks can join. But today we have a couple of questions in moderator. But before we jump into that, I wanted to share another little piece of how we create the roadmap. Spoiler alert, the primary objective for all this, other than sharing and caring, because that's what we do here, is because I want to, for this year and next year, I want to build the next roadmap for at least the beginning of the next year's roadmap for desktop and mobile together with everyone involved and having an open conversation now that we are at the beginning of Q2. So once we reach the final Q3 or Q4, we are in a state where hopefully the majority, if not everyone, is aware of why we made some specific decisions, why some things are in the roadmap and other things are not in the roadmap. So yeah, no pressure whatsoever in deciding good things. But first, I'm going to share a little document that most of the people should be aware of. This is, let me move the chat to the other side. Okay, so this is the document that we've been using to define our roadmap. And we started in the previous session of the State of the Thunder, discussing what was our vision statement, what is our destination, how do we think about our users? Are they customers? Are they users? How do we trap them with kindness and honesty? What are our product goals? And general engineering focus. The thing that I wanted to highlight in this session are our target areas, because every time we discuss the roadmap, not every time, but most of the times when we present the roadmap that it's almost finalized, we present it to other parties that were involved in the decision of what are we working on this year? What are we working on? What are the priorities for this quarter and things like that? There's always the usual question, why did you choose this instead of that? Why did you prioritize this feature or this fix instead of the other? Like you have 1,000,001 things that are broken while you're doing new things. The usual question. So we always try to maintain some sort of balance between new things and existing things, so fixing what is broken, but also implementing something new. And we call these like the 4 primary target areas or pillars or decision making. I don't know. I'm not good with names. You can name it the way you want. But in general, every time we try to plan for what are we going to work on in the next 6 months, a year, 2 year, we always try to maintain a balance on things that touch one of these 4 areas. So the first one is, of course, stability, because if the application crashes, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter how many super cool features we have. If it's not usable, it's not usable. So we always need to tend to the old code. We need to update. We need to take care of our technical debt. We need to try to clean up as much as possible to make things easier in the future. The next aspect is encryption. Not only exclusively specifically about let's make OpenPGP and S-MIME better, but also on the aspect that every time we do something, even outside of Thunderbird, if we do something for services, or if we do another service like send or appointment or the email client, email service, all of these new ideas and objectives and projects, they always have encryption at the base. How can we guarantee safety, end-to-end encryption to our users? We always try to jump on a venture that makes sense, that allows us to be privacy respecting and encryption focused and all this kind of stuff. But also, of course, in the client, we try every year to improve as much as possible the onboarding of email encryption, making OpenPGP and S-MIME better, trying to support as much as possible the different versions, especially like old version of S-MIMEs and all this kind of stuff. The other aspect is, of course, competition. Thunderbird for many years has been failing behind our competition for many reasons, like lack of resource and things like that. But every time we decide what type of features we want to work on, we do a competitive analysis. We do a marketing analysis, competitors analysis. If Natalie was here, she would be able to talk more eloquently than what I'm doing right now in this specific section. But we look at what like Google and Microsoft and other, like even Proton Mail, that like kind of they're adjacent to our space. What are they doing? What are their value proposition? Why are they able to attract more users than us? With the answer of Microsoft and Google, most of the times is just with sketchy behavior, but we're not worried about that, and we're not going to follow that, of course. But we try to always decide features that we don't have and will bring us closer and closer to our competition. And adjacent to that, then we always try to sprinkle a little bit of innovation every year. Every time we do something new, or even when we rebuild a feature, we try to do it in a way that it's innovating. Even when we refactor simple code, we try to make it in a way that allows the next round of updates to be better, to be easier, or a place where we can experiment with new code or something that hasn't been done before. A classic example is, and I'm very glad that Jeff is here because I'm going to throw him under the bus if he wants to talk, but if you don't want to, it's fine. Something that we did with the new About 3 pane, the new mail tab. We had a lot of problems with the old Zul3 performance, smooth scrolling. It wasn't really flexible. We only had like table view and that's it. So deciding to rebuild the entire mail tab from scratch, the new About 3 pane entire from scratch, touched multiple things. Touched the stability, because every time the Zul3 was breaking, we didn't really have full control on the Zul3 because it came from Toolkit. We couldn't tweak it. Already in the state that it was before, it was kind of like a tweaked, hacked version of what the Zul3 was meant to be. Plus competition, because our competitions, they all had like cards view. They all had flexible layouts. We only had table view. We couldn't easily do something like that. But also innovation, rather than trying to fork the Zul3 or hack it a little bit more to adapt it to our needs, Jeff said, no, let's rebuild it from scratch with pure HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that opened the door to a much faster, much more sustainable series of innovations, adding new features, adding new style, even maintainability and future-proofing our application. All of those things were, every time we make this type of decision, we decide to work on a feature, we always try to keep in the back of our head one, or if not multiple, of these 4 target areas. And it's not always easy to communicate it externally. It's not always easy to let the user understand that we're not working on the feature that you care about because it doesn't really touch any of these things. We're going to do that later, but maybe not. So that's the TLDR of all these, our target areas. Are there any questions, any doubts? Anyone else wants to add something or wants to tell me that I'm saying everything wrong? Like, this is an open conversation. You can also contradict me. I don't mind. Actually, I prefer. So keep me on my toes. Cool. Sweet. All right. We can jump on the moderator questions. The first question, which is very interesting. It's anonymous question, but It reads, what is your plan to start addressing the bug backlog on Bugzilla, including the numerous serious regressions that are buried in there? The backlog has been growing for many years while Thunderbird continues to become more unstable. That's a bit unfair, isn't it? It's a bit aggressive, yeah. Oh, Jeff wrote something. Just wanted to add that having revamped the 3 pane, we now have more contributors who can help us with it. Yes, absolutely. That's an extremely valid point. Before it was borderline impossible to contribute to the thread pane or the message list. It was very hard for our contributors to just even remotely understand how to tweak things. Even core developers were struggling every day. So that opened the door to a lot more contribution, which is a nice side effect. So I'm going to copy paste this question in the chat so everyone can read it properly. Why is it? Oh, wow. He pasted it in bold. Incredible. All right. I have my answer to this because I did a little bit of research. I have some Bugzilla stats and things like that. Anyone wants to jump in and answer to this question from their personal point of view? You agree with this question? Do you have anything that you want to add to it?
As your friendly neighborhood support person who's worked in support 2009 to 2012 and now 2023 to present, I would just, from a support point of view, Wayne, back me up if I'm wrong or contradict me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's any more or less stable now or the 2009 to 2012 era. And I feel like as an ex-computer scientist, I feel like at some point you have to fix the base layers, which is what we're doing. We are addressing bugs. I know the team goes, and I just observe because I have no input. The team goes through agonizing triage to try to figure out what to address, to try to figure out what to do next, while it's the sort of Theseus thing that we talked about for Thunder Firefox send code. We're doing the same thing, but on a much larger code base. So sort of Theseus is you replace the pieces of metal or whatever it is, and then is it the same sword it was when it started? Is it better? Bit by bit, you replace the sword parts, and I feel like that's the same. Or here's another analogy. Changing from F-14 to F-35 in flight while refueling.
Oh.
Seriously, that's what we're doing, folks. I mean, I could be wrong. You working, practicing computer scientists can correct.
Yeah, since you mentioned my name, I agree with that perspective. First of all, user perception is about how they're affected, right? And not necessarily accurate at a technical level. So certainly 115 and 128 changed a lot for users, and they would feel some pain. And if something doesn't work right in scrolling, for example, they're going to feel like, well, there's a major change problem or some instability. Just from a quantitative standpoint, knowing the crash statistics and the types of bug reports that we're getting or have gotten over the last 2 years, compared to other ESR releases, we're vastly better than we have been the prior 2 to 10 years. With the exception of the database corruption issue that we had. We have to acknowledge that. As far as the bug backlog goes, a lot of the stuff that we have been doing, refactoring and so forth, have addressed a large amount of backlog. And yes, there's light years to go. Right? There is that. Yeah. But you can't do it all at once, and there's always going to be somebody who says, "Oh, you're not fixing the bugs that I care about," and that's always going to be true. You can't get around that. So you have to pick your battles and then, you know, somewhat strategically, um, and do it in a best forward way thinking.
Hmm. Yeah, very well put. So I have some hard data here. I try to extract a couple of things from Bugzilla and draw some conclusions that hopefully are somewhat scientific adjacent conclusions. I don't know, but just to scare the couple of new people that we have in the team now, we have a total of unconfirmed and new bugs currently open in Bugzilla. There are like 11,667. That's the total of unresolved, unconfirmed new bugs. The defects, which means that there are not tasks nor requests for enhancements, so no feature, just the defects, all the things that are wrong, are a total of 7,703. These numbers are up to yesterday, probably. They're a little bit higher today. So we currently have 7,700 total defect bugs. These bugs go back to 2009. Like the oldest one was reported in 2009, the oldest one open. If we look at the currently active bugs, I put a filter to see which of these defects had any activity whatsoever. So a bug, like a comment or a flag change, or someone try to upload a patch and things like that. Since 2022. So it's been 3 years since these bugs has seen any activity, and the total is 3,835. So let's round it up, like very large rounding, but around 4,000. That means that of these 11,000 and plus bugs, only 4,000 has seen any activity of interaction in the past 3 years. This is an indication that a lot of the bugs, not everything, is not an accurate indication, but it's somewhat of anecdotal. We can draw some conclusion. A lot of the bugs that were reported since the beginning of Thunderbird have or been addressed or died of natural causes, like we fixed it in another place and we forgot to close the bug, or there were multiple duplicates and haven't been closed, or the issue is not that drastic that the reporter or other people experience that, or the other aspect that it is the most common one, is such a core difficult issue that cannot be easily fixed unless we do something drastic or we rebuild something. We currently have 12 developers, 12 active core developers with different levels of knowledge, with different capabilities and different ownership on different modules. The majority of the bug reports, especially the most complicated ones, are those in the backend. The most common reported are folder corruption, message copies, message filters, IMAP not working, protocols general like POP not working, IMAP not working, and things like that. We also have other things like performance issues. It doesn't work well, like it freezes on my version of Arch Linux with a KDE desktop environment with my neon theming. Like we have all these very complicated, hard to reproduce bugs that, of course, because we are only 12 developers and there are 11,000 plus bugs in total in Bugzilla, it's physically impossible for us to go through every single one of those. The only thing that we can do is look at the trend of the crashes, dedicate the time to the most impending issues, and we triage a lot faster than we used to triage last year. As an example, I extracted also data like since January this year, there have been a total of 299 bugs filed. We fixed since January 297. So we're kind of one-to-one of one bug filed, one bug fixed. And we are trying to keep that. That's been like 3 months. So we fix an average of 100 bugs per month. Of course, those bugs are sometimes are new features, sometimes it's a balance of bug reports, defects, tasks, requests for enhancements, and things like that. But 12 people, not everyone at the same level of expertise, we're able to fix an average of 100 bucks per month. I consider this an incredible feat. I'm absolutely impressed by the speed, consistency, the ability to, when there's a crash, when there's a major issue, we jump on the bug, we interact with the users. And if the bug dies down, that there's no more activity, 9 out of 10 reasons is because for us, it's extremely difficult to reproduce it, or it's a core architectural issue. And in order to address it, we need to basically rebuild a big chunk of Thunderbird. And that's what it's happening with the folder database. And that's what happened with the About 3 pane. The larger general question, then I will stop and I will open up for anybody else if wants to add anything else. The other larger things is what is more important, or what gives Thunderbird and the users more value? Us stopping entirely doing anything else and just doing bug triaging and bug triaging 11,000 bugs, which is gonna probably with 12 people is gonna take us, I don't know, 100 years together. That's an absurd number. But even if it takes us a year, what is more beneficial for the users? That we do bug triaging of things that haven't had any activities for more than 4 years or 5 years, or maintaining a balance of continuing improving the product, fixing the most glaring crashes, and adding new features on top to remain competitive and to remain relevant with the rest of the email calendar ecosystem out there? That's the general question. My opinion is not stopping everything and just cleaning up the bug tracker, because that's not good value for us and for the user. Yes, Wayne?
Yeah, I'll share in chat the two graphs that I posted to you earlier today, which will help people visualize what the what the bug situation looks like. And if you
Oh,
look at
nice.
those two graphs, I had actually hadn't looked at it that closely earlier today, but there's a drastic change. It's hard to put. The graphs are very kind of basic, but the unconfirmed and new numbers, the graph took a drastic turn around shortly after January 2023. So roughly 2 years ago, you see a plateau in the first graph. And
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah. It seems like right at the end, it's difficult to see, but right at the end, there's a little bit of like a downward trend, maybe, that it's happening. It's too early to say, but yeah,
Yeah,
no,
one
this
never
is
knows.
this is very interesting. Yeah. I'm also impressed with the second graph, like the fixed uh just skyrocketing up and catching up. And yeah, I always
Yeah, you
suspected that the majority of the bugs were duplicates. But yeah, this puts it in perspective.
um yeah, duplicate numbers will tend to be on the high side, but you see if you again, it looks like it's roughly around um January 2023 that in the fixed and the red line and the black line, which is duplicates, you see a bit of a change in the rate. There's a bit of a knee in the graph,
Hmm.
roughly 3/4 of an inch from the right.
Nice.
It's all good.
It's all good. It's happening. We're doing good. Yes. Jeff says the Bugzilla data is somewhat clouded by the fact that a lot of the bugs were filed by us. Yes, of course. Yeah, that's also, there are a lot of bugs that I filed with new features that I want to work on 6 years ago and never completed because that's reality. Yeah, it's a good point.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking from like a contributor standpoint, maybe well, two parts. Number one, surely Firefox has the same problem. So how do they deal with it? And number two, maybe like we could start doing some bug squashing parties to try and inject some enthusiasm to get some potential contributors to come and help us identify.
Mhm.
Do
For
we know
sure.
what Firefox does?
I have no idea. We can ask. Is
Um,
anyone from Firefox around here? I can.
they no
Who's the
longer have
Alessandro of Firefox?
they no longer have bug parties. It's been decades since they've done that kind of thing. Um, I no longer am in that space frequently. There was a time when I was. They used to have a QA group which would sponsor community activities. That hasn't been in place for probably, successful for about a decade. What they've done is they've gone to triage owners for components, and they are principally responsible for triaging the bugs in a small segment of Bugzilla. Um, some of them may be module owners for that area. Um, I'm not sure exactly how they decide, but probably 90+% of their bugs, if you go look at one, you'll see the triage owner is assigned, there is one for Firefox or a core component. And
Yeah.
they also have automation around that.
Mhm.
Um, uh, Such that if something hasn't been touched in a certain number of days, or if there's a patch, somebody gets notified that some action needs to be taken at some point.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, the automation that the Firefox side of things come with is not accessible to us yet. We can definitely reach out and ask if we can use the same thing or implement the same thing. We have a lot fewer active developers and triage owners to be able to fully support that. Already, I don't know you, but you in general as like audience, but I get like 60 to 80 bug mail per day every morning. So if we get more automations and I get more pings about things, I could probably explode. But I would be very interested in exploring the idea of doing bug squashing party with the community. I think in the past, especially when we kicked off the more like hardcore triaging of a couple of years ago, we try to leverage some community members. The hardest part was a substantial number of bugs that are on triage, unconfirmed, or unverified are those that are hard to figure out. And only people that worked in that specific area or know that code can figure it out. So it became quickly frustrating for community members to know how comfortable they can be in closing something or triaging or saying, yeah, this is actually a confirmed bug, or is this a regression, or is this supposed to work this way and you're just using it wrong, which is a terrible things to say, but sometimes it happens. So yeah, that's I don't think there's a black and white answer here, but I would be more than happy to proceed with the exploration of bug squashing parties.
I like that idea. But also in my experience, it seems like the hardest part is just can we get, somebody files a bug, they give not enough information, and then the question is this reproducible regularly? And it would just be helpful to even have that piece of information and some reproducer steps, because most people that file bugs don't provide that.
Mm-hmm.
So even if the bug squashing party didn't, give a contributor, here's an unverified bug all the way to the patch stage. If it was just like, yeah, here's the reproducer steps, or
Mm-hmm.
no, it won't work, it's not reproducible.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I tried. I don't know. I think that would still be helpful. So
Yeah.
setting expectations for helpers like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think maybe looking at establishing some sort of uh, bug squashing virtual gathering
Yeah.
is maybe would be beneficial and something I could look at doing.
Oh,
I have a set of wiki pages which already addresses this because I ran these in the past.
yeah. Yeah, we have a
Oh,
couple of documents also where we try to create a triaging rule
Hmm.
book of like guidelines for everybody, especially new team members. So I can share that with you.
I think
Um,
we put that up on DTN, right?
did we? Maybe. I hope so.
Part of it is on DTN, yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
But if you
But
have experience, Wayne, like I've been thinking about how I can try and actually like onboard some new contributors, and the hardest part is like finding them. So maybe through like some bug squashing parties would be a good place.
Hmm.
yeah, we can team up.
Yeah. Nice. I'm reluctant to say this because then this is going to be on the internet. But if we find a good metrics, it would be nice to give some prizes. I don't know, like T-shirts or stickers if you squash 100 bugs. But then how do we evaluate? Like, yeah, you squashed 100 bugs, but you just close them like without looking at them. Uh, but
Yeah,
yeah.
and we had on the community side of things looked at some potential incentives
Mm,
and tiers, and so that's something that we could like revisit. I do think that, physical incentives like swag for whatever milestone
mhm.
is useful.
Nice. Hey, look at us. But yeah, TLDR is not as bad as it looks, right? Everybody kind of agrees on this.
Yeah, if you judge by that graph, primarily I would say that um, the newer bugs we're doing much better at.
Mhm.
Um, it's really the backlog, the largest portion of that number
Mm.
that we're not getting as good progress on.
Yeah. And that's
But
also,
that's
yeah.
also indicative of the fact that um, as you said, they're at particularly for the older bugs, there needs to be a certain level of knowledge for the person. For the newer bugs, you're going to have people who have current knowledge about the types of things that are being reported.
Mhm.
Vastly different composition of what the bugs are about.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have that dichotomy.
Yep. 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 I agree. Anyone else related to this topic, or we can jump on the next moderator question. Next question, I'm going to post it in the chat as well. Regardless of the outcome of the election, what are you planning to do to improve the working relationship between MZLA and the council? What specific changes could MZLA make? Um, I mean, I personally feel that the working relationship with the council is in a very good state. I talk with council members almost every day, and they're very collaborative and open. But we understand that sometimes because we work on these things every day and the council meets once every 2 weeks, sometimes once a month, council members can be caught by surprise with some sudden changes and they might be, I don't know, they might feel left outside of the general process, which is tricky because, so a couple of things. First, we're doing this State of Thunder. The council is pinged and invited in every single of these instances. Unfortunately, council members are volunteers. So is not even it is not expected and not even required for a council member to attend every single meeting that MZLA does, especially the plannings, especially the engineering meetings, especially the updates. We do just the managers, we do 5 to 6 meetings per week, including the direct reports and the engineers. We have like the status reports, we have specific meetings per project. So let's say an average of 10 meetings per week, which is not that much. There are companies out there that have a lot more meetings per day every day, like sprints, scrums, and all this, like check-ins and stuff like that. But let's say we have an average of 10 meetings per day. Our objective is to, whenever we do public meetings, like we group meetings, and they're not private one-on-one, we will send an open invitation to every council member to host, participate, or just listen quietly. Plus, every time we have a document or some planning or an idea or something that it's related to the council participation, we share it also with the council. But once again, we produce a lot of documentation. We update a lot of things every week, and we send a lot of information. We don't have a demand, like a hard demand for council members. Hey, you need to answer to me every day. But internally in MZLA, we have a requirement, a hard requirement of making decisions every day and unblocking people and making sure that people are not, well, we're waiting for an answer, so don't work on this for the next 2 weeks. That's kind of unacceptable. We kind of just burn money with that. So we always want to have a consistent working relationship with the council, and we hope to improve it with a lot more outreaching and outgoing. But we also understand that council members are volunteers and they cannot dedicate. They have jobs, they have families, they have a life. They cannot dedicate the same time to what we do as the MZLA employees. So we try to be respectful and we try to be balanced on this. But anyone else has, what's your opinion? What do you like did you interact with the council? Did you feel that they're not as involved and they should be? Like open discussion. What everybody else think? Alrighty. We only had 2 questions in moderator. Anyone else has any question that wants to ask directly related to anything like the roadmap, technical things, and oh, what was the council question? Yeah, the council question, I'm gonna paste it here in chat, Ryan. Regardless of the outcome of the election, what are you planning to do to improve the working relationship between MZLA and the council? What specific changes could MZLA make? Do you want me to repeat the answer?
No,
Yeah.
that's fine. I heard the answer. I just
Okay.
came in. Yeah, obviously we're really happy to improve our engagement with anybody who wants to contribute, whether be it on the council or just in any of our repos.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any other random question, open question, or anyone wants to jump in and talk about something?
Oh, what the heck.
Yeah,
Continuing on from my question from 2 weeks ago, address book will be SQLite as well. You might have answered that question, but like I have no memory. When we revamp it in the future, which we don't have any firm plan.
Address book, SQLite. Jeff, you can answer to this, maybe?
The address book is already SQLite.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
right.
We did that several years ago.
Yeah.
Cool. So we could do, once we have these SQLite databases for messages and accounts, we can do fun stuff like just start a SQLite browser and say, hey, give me all the emails for these contacts on these accounts, right? And you won't have to know anything. You just have to have Thunderbird closed. You just have to know SQLite.
I'm not going to condone those activities.
You don't have
Well,
just
because it
less.
seems to me we have a lot of geeks.
Yeah,
It,
first
it will be technically possible, yes.
Yeah.
However, I would give the massive disclaimer that if you are messing around with the files, then you do it at your own risk.
I would have to go off the range here and give this somewhat controversial opinion to my geek friends. I love you. I love your 100 terabytes of email, but no. You do not need more than 1 terabyte of email. In fact, you do not need more than 1 gigabyte of email unless you're a government agency.
Hey, who knows? Maybe all the Italian government
Sorry,
agencies
end of
use Thunder.
controversial opinion.
Yeah.
Should be at CRM. It should be in a wiki. It should be in a blog. It should be Confluence, whatever. It should not be an email if it's more than a gig.
Let's see how many comments we get after we publish this
No,
video.
no one cares. Everyone will just
We're
ignore me. That's cool. Please
We're
ignore
gonna
me.
redirect
That's
them
cool.
all to Roland. It's all Roland's fault. It's a Roland opinion.
Yeah, I have another question, which a friend kind of reminded me about the other day, and I've heard asked about at FOSDEM, which is a lot of power users that, maybe used Mutt once would like a CLI version of Thunderbird.
It exists.
It exists, does it?
Yes.
Where's the
Yes.
documentation for that? We should write
That's
the
a
documentation.
very good
for
question. That is a very strong question. I think we're too afraid to expose it. So yeah, you can run Thunderbird commands via the terminal. I think, can you read emails? I don't know if you can, but you can change profile, trigger the compose, other things. It's very limited, of course. Actually, I should check the source code. Jeff, do you remember where is the CLI stuff in our source code? What's the location?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I think
It's documented
Getting
on the
back to-
Firefox side.
yeah.
I'll find the link.
Getting back to Heather's question, are you talking about being able to use the command line to browse your email rather than having a graphical interface?
Yes. Or
That
like
doesn't
automated.
exist.
Like automated sending email, like SendMail, but Thunderbird.
Yeah, that doesn't really exist.
How
we are
difficult would it be to make it exist?
It depends on what level, right? More
Yeah.
recently, we took away the capability to have it send without bringing up the 3-pane, right? There were some technical reasons for doing that. So that has changed.
Yeah,
But you
it's
can compose stuff and have it send.
I think the interesting question would be, or the interesting action here would be to collect what requirements are these users looking for, what type of actions, and why. What is the goal? What is the purpose? And what is the benefit? Like, if we can identify that type of scope, then we can potentially have an overview of what is needed. What do these users need? And then we can better answer of, yeah, this is possible, or this is very hard, or we can actually already do this, stuff like that. In general, we never had strong requirements for this, or I don't think I've seen. Probably in the past 6 years, I've seen like 2 or 3 bugs coming through. This is very anecdotal, so don't take these these data as hard data. But I've seen like 2 or 3 bugs coming through as using the compose in the command line is broken, so fix it, and we fixed it. But no requests or other things.
Yeah, it's very niche.
Okay.
Yeah,
Small
Yeah.
businesses have a lot of requirements for printing stuff automatically or exporting automatically or sending. There's mail merge add-on, of course, but it's very niche, and it has not been developed for that reason
Yeah.
historically.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's fine. It was worth asking.
But yeah, I mean, for the super nerdy, having, I don't know, like you install Thunderbird in your uh, VPS and then you use Ansible to automate some actions via the command line, that would be super nerdy. I love it. But yeah, it's tricky. We'll see. I mean,
But we'd probably accept some code.
100%
Yeah,
always.
of
Especially,
course.
yeah, especially code that doesn't touch UI if it's just the command line is kind of like separate to the side. So hell yeah, if they're willing to participate, please. Yeah.
Yeah, Heather, I can talk to you offline about some of the stuff that I've seen people requesting. Um,
Yeah, I think that would be interesting to like publish, maybe not a blog post, maybe some sort of survey. I don't know the shape of this, but to gather that information to fill out requirements and then kind of solicit the
yeah.
community for CLI code contributions would be cool.
Another part of the problem in that area is we get very little feedback from enterprise or small business people, other than the fact that I can't do this or that. Like if they've solved the problem, they tend not to come to us and say, "Oh, here's how I did this."
Mhm.
And we don't have the time to develop that kind of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a disconnect.
Mhm.
Right.